Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today I'm going to be checking out Wave 1 of the new Legends of Dragonore toy line from Formo Toys. You might have seen me cover this toy line at a few conventions leading up to these figures' release, but if this is brand new to you, essentially what this is a brand new 5.5 line of action figures. 5.5, of course, being the scale of the figures, 5.5 inches. I've also heard these referred to as fantasy retro figures, essentially homages to Masters of the Universe. I think that's pretty obvious here, but 5.5 is sort of like the term that's used for figures in this particular scale and styling. And yes, it's very clear. It's an homage to Masters of the Universe, but these have had me very excited because not only am I a huge fan of this particular form factor, this action figure scale and style, but these just look really cool. I mean, these character designs are amazing. The figures have looked really incredible in all of the prototype stages, so I'm excited to dive in and give these a good look. Now, as you can see, those packages definitely do a really good job of capturing the feeling of a lot of those retro fantasy toy lines, like your Masters of the Universe, like your Remco figures. They've got beautiful artwork on the front of the card back of that awesome red dragon. There's a burst behind the figure. Even the shapes of the card backs, very similar to that of what we've seen on those vintage action figures. The card backs are also incredibly sturdy. I love the heavy stock on these. These feel so good. If you're somebody who wants to leave your figures mint on card, you will have no problem leaving these carded. So this particular wave of figures introduces us to these new characters of Barbaro, the heroic leader, Scoro, the evil magician, Yandara, heroic chieftain, Onor, merciless hunter of Decasia, Pantera, the silent huntress, and Karem, the brave mystical warrior. Very cool stuff. Obviously, you can see there's a little bit of a story element already here, just recognizable by the names and the descriptions of the figures. And in fact, if you flip this around to the back side, you'll see that every figure has their own little bio at the top of the card back with some gorgeous artwork. And again, I just love that very retro-inspired artwork that's all the way down on the cross-sell for these figures. Now, you'll also notice maybe on the packaging there that there's a little green burst with an arm or a leg or a helmet. That's because there's a Build-A-Figure here with every figure including 2 parts of the Divine Armor of Power. So if you get the entire wave, you got the opportunity to build that Divine Armor of Power, which is essentially a whole new action figure. So here are all of our action figures outside of the packaging, and real quick, let's bring in the tape measure here so you can see that these guys stand right at 5.5 inches. 5.5, exactly as we would expect. Now, great colorful cast of characters here, which is one of the things that really attracted me to this line, is just those beautiful character designs and the amazing colors. But we're definitely going to move a bunch of these guys off to the back. We're going to bring Barbaro, our new main hero character, up to the foreground. Because we got to talk about this guy. I think we've got to do a little bit of comparisons here with him as well so that you guys know what to expect with this particular toy line. So I'm going to grab that axe out of his hand for a second, and let's talk about articulation here. So all of these figures have very basic retro articulation, but there is a bit more than you would expect from a vintage Masters of the Universe or Remco toy line. So the heads turn left and right at the neck. You got arms moving forwards and backwards at the shoulders. However, we do have a wrist swivel on these figures, you can see. So the wrist will turn right there at that cuff. You got a waist swivel there, back and forth. The legs, you can see, move forwards and backwards. These are not on rubber bands, so you won't have to worry about dangly legs or loose legs or anything like that. It's just on a joint, so the legs move forwards and backwards. And then another added piece of articulation, we've got a swivel at the boot cut. So it is still very retro in the articulation department. So for somebody who might be collecting modern 5.5 figures like Masters of the Universe Origins, it's not going to have that much articulation, but it does have a bit more than your vintage Masters of the Universe figures. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and bring the original 82 He-Man in here, if I can get him to cooperate and stand up, just so I can show these guys standing side by side, so you know what to expect with this new line, to see how it fits in with those vintage action figures. In fact, why don't we go ahead and bring an Origins figure in here as well, so you can see how Origins looks alongside the new Legends of Dragonore toy line. So definitely has the stance with like the power squats and everything of the vintage Masters of the Universe figures, but still very much in scale with the modern Masters of the Universe toy line as well. And one thing that I'm going to say about the new Formo Toys figures here is, while it has a very vintage aesthetic, and while the articulation might seem more retro, the overall design of these guys does have a bit of a modern flair to it. The sculpting is gorgeous, and the paint deco, my goodness. Look at all of the paintwork on these new figures. So many deco hits, bright colors. I think that is gorgeous, and I definitely think that's where these figures really stand out and really shine. So there's been other modern retro 5.5 lines as well. I think a good one else to bring in here would be Zola World's Realm of the Underworld figures, which are essentially like continuing the Remco styling. So that way you can see what Legends of Dragonore looks like next to the Zola World figures as well. They definitely fit in pretty closely with those, but the articulation style and everything is slightly different. The quality is fantastic. I mean, the figure feels hefty, he's sturdy, the articulation is tight, he stands really well. I mean, this feels like a very solid figure that would be even good for playing with. But man, yeah, those deco hits are amazing on this. Look at that little sculpted dragon on the harness of Barbaro there. I love that. That detailing is intricate on there. The golds are very shiny. All of those colors are bright and vibrant. He's a very, very cool looking figure. One thing I also really like here is that his helmet is removable. So check that out. That's something I didn't realize until I opened this guy up and started messing around with him. It fits so nice and solid on his head, you almost wouldn't know that it comes off. And then, of course, his one accessory is this beautiful golden axe. Definitely has a bit of a He-Man feel to it, but this is just a gorgeous action figure. I love it. That brings us to Yandara, our heroic chieftain. Obviously, you can see the styling very similar to the females we got in the vintage Masters of the Universe line, such as Teela and Evelyn, but she is gorgeous. Another gorgeous sculpt with all these beautiful colors. You can see her headdress is removable. It fits nice and snug over her head there. Beautiful golden color in the paint deco. You can actually remove this golden harness as well if that's something that you wish to do there. And one of the things about these figures as well that you'll notice is that they do have some removable parts. So you can still pop parts off, which will be good for customization, but also good for things like the removable armor, where you can see I popped the head off to remove that harness. Her staff is amazing. Again, just look at the beautiful sculpting at the, let me get a good focus here. There we go. Look at the sculpting on this thing. With those heads, with the like red marbles in their mouths. Gosh, this is so incredibly cool. And again, the articulation on the females, very similar. Their wrists also swivel, but not at the cuff, but actually at the wrist. So it's just the hand that turns. But you can see all that articulation is the same on these figures, just styled a little differently for that female body. But man, another absolutely gorgeous figure in this new lineup. I love Pantera. Oh my goodness, this cat lady. She's incredible. First of all, colors are gorgeous on her, with her fur being sort of like a deep purple, almost like a blue, like a dark bluish purple, but it's highlighted by this magenta-ish armor here that she's wearing. She's got the nice sword there. Look at that head sculpt. Oh, that is so incredibly cool. I think she is a beautiful character. But this is a good point to also point out that following in the footsteps of a lot of these vintage figures, there is some shared parts going on with the molds. You can see that the female bodies here are the same. They've just got different paint deco, but also different armor pieces that make them stand out from each other to differentiate them. So you can remove this purple armor if you want to, and she'll just have the furry bits on underneath that. But she is one of my favorites. I just think she looks so incredibly cool. Okay, Ka-Rem is definitely another favorite in this line, but come on, man. He's translucent blue. He is so incredibly cool looking. Also, the genie motif is really cool on this guy. I love that his accessory is like a genie lamp on a staff. But again, beautiful colors and everything there. Like, he's got that translucent body, but I love that he's still wearing like this blue vest. So it's painted. It's not translucent with all the gold adornments there. And also, he has got a cloth cape, which is like this purplish pinkish color. It's very similar to the capes on vintage Masters of the Universe. This reminds me a lot of the Scareglow cape, but it's got this little stretchy cord in the front there, so it fits right over the figure's head. I just think he's a great looking character though. I love this one. That brings us to Onitor, which is another favorite in this line. I know I've said that a lot, but this guy, I mean, come on, you gotta have a lot of weirdos in a line like this, right? A lot of really funky looking bad guys. I love the colors on this one, the bright red and green and yellow. That face sculpt is killer. This is just an amazing looking character here. His weapon is also very interested in the form of this spiked club that's got sort of like this dragon head on the top of it there. You can see that he's got these sculpted fingernails there. He's also only got 4 fingers, so he's got like his own unique hand sculpts, the unique armor sculpts there. So he definitely stands out among a lot of the figures in this particular wave, but he is a gorgeous figure. I love this one. And that brings us to our big bad, a Scoro. He's like an evil wizard type character there. You can see he's got that like trademark scar across his one blind eye. Nice like trope, nice 80s villain trope. I love that. He's also rocking this really cool furry cape, which feels so nice. I mean, it's like thick. You can see it's lined on the inside with like a normal black fabric, but the fur on the outside, this is like a very sturdy feeling cloth cape. Obviously, he's got a bit of a different sculpt too, because he's wearing like a shirt, so he's got these sculpted puffy sleeves here, but then he still has like this very classic retro like armor or harness there with like the silver skull with the cross on the front of it. Almost got this bat motif there. And check out that not Havoc staff. He's got that staff there that's totally got like a ram head and a bat there. Man, he's very cool looking as well. He's also like, you know, he's got these more monochrome colors, you know, he's got like the grays and the blacks and like kind of the pale blue, but he does have this bright red belt right there on there, so it really stands out. And of course that glowing red eye, that's how you know he's a bad guy. And that brings us to the Divine Armor. This is like the Build-A-Figure in the line. So if you get all the figures in this wave, you'll get pieces to put together this amazing armor. There is some serious Jack Kirby inspiration going on here. I love how totally bananas this armor looks. Those bright colors, those crazy deco there, the designs. Oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. So all the parts just pop on real nice there. And once you get it all put together, like I said, this is like a standalone figure on its own. But this is sort of like the MacGuffin. It's one of the things that our characters are fighting over here is, of course, to get the Divine Armor. And since our figures do have mix and match parts, this is something pretty cool that you can do with these guys. If you want to pop the head off of, say, Barbaro there, and then we can pop the head off of this Divine Armor, look at that. We've got those shared neck pegs. So we can put Barbaro's head on the armor, and now it looks like he's rocking the armor. How cool is that? You've got the helmet, you can have him holding in his arms there if you want to, but it's just such a cool concept. It's a really cool idea to have this like super powered armor being the thing that they're trying to get for these battles, but that it also works standalone as its own action figure. Or you could do the mixing and matching of parts, which is just so incredibly cool. So there you go, my friends. There is a look at the first wave of Legends of Dragonore from Formo Toys. If you've been following the progress of this, way back when they first started working on this line, it sort of started off more as an homage to early concept stuff for Masters of the Universe. Barbaro looked a lot more like Prototype He-Man, Scoro looked a lot more like Keldor, but things evolved, and instead, this turned into its own toy line, which I definitely think was the right move. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'd be really cool to get figures of a lot of Prototype Motu stuff, but I love seeing them go in a new direction, do their own characters, create their own world, and there are still a lot of homages here. I think it's very clear that this line pays respect to a lot of the design elements of Mark Taylor. I mentioned that there was some definite Jack Kirby influence there, so I love to see it. The team at Formo Toys is doing something really special here, I think. All of these are designed so well. These are very solid, very sturdy, retro-style action figures. I know there are definitely going to be some fans out there who would prefer to have the more modern Origins articulation, and that's totally understandable for somebody who prefers more articulation, but I still think these are super solid as they are. I love these, and I'm so excited to see what else is on the way. Just this past summer, they started revealing new figures for the upcoming waves. We've got some amazing dragons coming that double as ride-ons and characters. This line looks like it's going to turn out to be something really, truly spectacular. And as somebody who loves this retro fantasy 5.5 line, I am all in, baby. Very, very cool stuff. So you can check these out right now if you want to get some for yourself. They are available at most online retailers such as Big Bad Toy Store. You can also order directly from the Legends of Dragonore website, so I'll make sure I link all of that in the video description. Thank you guys so very much for watching this video. Until next time.